go back and look at, the drainage manual, and, come up with some drainage recommendations. And we met on, a couple different occasions, and Adam Osweiler here with McClellan, will be here to kind of go through those recommendations or discussion points that we have. He's passing out, a list of those in addition to the clarifications that were added probably 18 months ago, so the drainage manual. Just generally speaking, what he's gonna go over, there's likely a little disconnect between final plat and implementation of, building permits, grading permits between homes, and how, we're ensuring that, all drainage items are taken care of during the home building process. So that's where a lot of this will focus. Adam will go over all of that.
Good evening, everyone. So as Daniel mentioned earlier, what you see in front of you, Adam Osweiler with McClellan Engineers, what you see in front of you is a sheet that says clarifications. There were modifications to the drainage manual that was passed, I think, in 2021. Those are already accepted, approved as part of the actual drainage manual. The drainage evaluation recommendations that we also have are just kind of a summary of items that we've gone back and looked at internally and with Justin, the mayor, planning, public works department, just to kind of get an idea of what modifications can be done to try to help improve the city as it relates to preliminary plats, final plats, and even large-scale developments and anything that comes through from a site and design standpoint. The first item that's on there is evaluating building and grading permit applications. As mentioned before, there seems to be kind of a little bit of a disconnect between that final plat and the building permits for when a home actually gets built for a subdivision. And so adding some information on those building permit applications and making sure that that person that is applying for those building permits understands what was done on the front end during the preliminary plat and final plat portion of the project as it relates to finished floor elevations, showing where driveway access points are, make sure there's drainage away from the structures from a grading standpoint, ensuring construction does not impact surface drainage in general utility easements, ensuring all stages of construction do not impact stormwater drainage by adversely affecting neighboring properties, having building inspectors verify this during all the site visits. At this time, they're only inspecting inside the building itself, so it would give them more oversight on the property itself, outside of the structure. And then trying to utilize the iWork software for building permits and associated inspections. That switch will take place at the beginning of the 2026 year. So just trying to better implement that into the process of that transition from the final plat, grading permit to the building permit. And please, if anybody has any questions or comments during this, please feel free to interrupt me.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
but I think it would have to be directed towards Justin. So if we would approve any development at the next meeting, Mayor, can that development be under this new drainage?
It's basically what he's referring to is better communication on what was already in place, but
Switch,
absolutely
but
any
this-
changes made, we can make.
This
at this
iWork
time.
would be on our part.
No, iWork is already something that y'all purchased that's being implemented.
Okay.
So that's something that, as a breakover point, we were planning to start that January 1st. So everything for this year is uniform, everything for next year is uniform on iWork.
So anything that will be possibly passed at the next meeting
Would
would fall
be-
under this
Yes.
January 1st effective date for the city and the developer, correct? Okay, thank you.
And keep in mind, there are some items on here that are still in the process of being finalized. And once we get towards the bottom, I can explain some of that a little bit further. But for the most part, these are just kind of our recommendations that we've come up with after meeting with the mayor and with the city attorney.
Thank you.
Next item is evaluate adding inspection compliance position and develop a job description to aid with MS4 site inspections compliance and floodplain management. Due to the projected growth in the next 2 or 3 years, 1,000+ homes, given the subdivisions that are either in construction, in site review, or what we kind of see from a preliminary standpoint that we've been meeting with different developers about, additional manpower may be needed. And that's mainly just kind of like a compliance officer position almost, that kind of is all-encompassing, that could help from a building permit standpoint, can help from an MS4 standpoint or different inspections, just to make sure that there's another set of eyes on a lot of these different items that we're referring to today. Such as what we have done in the past for water and sewer details, but develop standardized erosion control site and drainage details for any work that is done within a drainage easement or the city right of way. MCE will complete field verification of all as-built surveys submitted by developer prior to final plat approval. Approximately 10% of submitted as-built surveys will be verified. Tolerance will need to be identified and followed. So I think at a previous meeting, it was basically kind of like spot checking as-built surveys or as-built documentation from water, sewer, drainage standpoints as they come in. Currently, we do not have a system in place to actually send manpower out to a project to confirm those. We take that information from the engineer who stamps them themselves, but this will basically act as McClellan being able to go as a third party and confirming those things from the city standpoint for detention ponds, drainage, infrastructure, water and sewer as well.
So would this be in addition to your recommendation of an inspection compliance position? Or would it be a supplemental if we decide not to go with that recommendation?
So it would be, those are 2 separate items. Basically, this one is from an engineering standpoint to go check to make sure detention ponds, the bottoms and the tops are, built per plan elevation.
Okay,
As
perfect.
opposed to just taking that information from the engineer.
Perfect, thanks.
This next one is also part of the clarifications that you have in front of you as well too, but requiring a mass grading plan of all subdivision submissions during permitting. That is basically to show what minimum finished floor elevations for lots adjacent to all drainage easements, retention ponds and floodplains might be. MCEs currently require mass grading on certain submissions if it's warranted. So that's essentially just from an engineering standpoint on the preliminary plat stage to show the engineering staff and planning staff what that finished product will look like prior to it being built, so that there is less confusion and less misunderstanding between the final plat process and the building permit. So we, as a review entity, can understand where all the surface drainage, subsurface drainage would go, as opposed to subdivisions just cutting in a road, installing drainage, water, sewer utilities, and then having the home builder come up with a grading plan. It would give the home builder, in that building permit phase, a little bit more direction on what the intent of the drainage design was on the front end. So it better reflects what the engineer of record had in mind from day one to the home being built. Requiring an additional certification from building grading permit holder that certifies that they reviewed the final approved plat and any minimum building requirements outlined in the approved plat, and that they have or will convey any minimum building requirements outlined on the approved plat to the homeowner. So it kind of goes along with that very first item of making sure between the final plat and the building permit that everyone understands what is required of them and that they are meeting those standards that are set forth in that final plat document. Evaluating the adoption of a streamside protection ordinance. This is a way to protect the streams of Cave Springs and any kind of waterways, so that those areas you want to have, from a standpoint of protection of the waterways, so that we can kind of try to help reduce the amount of development that is getting really close to a lot of these places. As we've seen development happen in subbasins, in regions and subbasins far north of Cave Springs, it all kind of funnels through us, and in the areas that are just right down the street from here. And so this is a way to help try to, give relief to some of those street side areas. Different entities around the region, Fayetteville for one, have adopted some guidelines like this that we have used to try to help kind of formulate what we would recommend as well too. Create and maintain the stormwater GIS map that capture flooding and drainage concerns and complaints that can be referenced to each development submitted to the city for permitting. So I think this would be a great resource for the city, both from the community standpoint and from review staff standpoint, that if there are areas of town that we may not be aware of from the standpoint of that have flooding issues or drainage issues, this would be a good way for everyone to understand kind of where some of those areas and zones are that might be a little bit more temperamental when it comes to drainage, so that we, from a review standpoint, can understand better how to accommodate those areas with new development. Require off-site drainage improvements to be completed by developers to mitigate existing downstream impacts. That's one of the items that we're working with the city attorney on to try to figure out how that gets mitigated and how it gets formulated, how far downstream we can look at, as opposed to directly just off the property, the line where that development is ending. And then requiring all dirt subdivisions to be compacted and stabilized prior to approving the final plat. So, as opposed to having essentially all the lots in the subdivision, whether it's right away private, in an easement, whether it's utility easement or drainage easement, everything would be stabilized prior to the final plat being approved. So these are just the ones that we have, like I said, discussed with staff, Public Works, the mayor, city attorney on, as far as evaluating different ways that the drainage ordinance can better aid the city moving forward with the amount of development that's underway now and moving forward.
Daniel, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
And, well, he just knows more about, Hillcrest. Do you believe if all this was in place, that Hillcrest wouldn't have been the way it had?
Yes, I think it would have helped out tremendously, because originally, as one of the top things we're talking about, the mass grading, two things that I'm thinking about is, number one, is we would go back and take a look at the completed project. If there's more fill been placed, if more fill have been placed, in a subdivision, 1, 2, 3 foot higher, it's going to, cause stormwater not to function as originally designed. I think that's what we saw in that subdivision.
With that,
With that set.
with all that dirt being moved after the final
That's
plat.
correct.
And so if we have an inspector, and I really feel strongly that, I'm glad I see this in here, that this can't fall on Public Works, and this can't fall on McClellan alone. So I like that you guys have an entity of recommending that you are gonna approach it and keep up with the engineers, because I believe there were a lot of failures before that, we didn't forecast as a city that people would be doing. And then the fact there's someone that can keep up with every development and have that as a priority. Now with the create and maintain stormwater GIS map, that seems like something that an inspector compliance person could do, and you would integrate everything that we currently have as an issue as well into that. Would that be correct, or they would do that?
That's correct. And as, since you are your own MS4, you have to maintain a drainage map today as it is with your stormwater and your outfalls that you currently have. Each of those new outfalls with any new subdivision are added to this map. It would be easy to add any of these challenge areas that we have. And so when any development would come in, we would look downstream from that and see what's been identified to ensure that we don't make anything worse and hopefully could improve the downstream situation before it's constructed and before we have those impacts later on.
Yeah,
So
it'd be a roadmap, like during our site review of the project, to pull that up from the very first day, and say, okay, where is this property that this development going in? Okay, turn on the layer. Directly downstream, there might be 1 or 2 components complaints, you know, within 100, 200 foot of that new property that someone has, you know, seen a drainage issue, and that at least comes to the forefront of our radar. Okay, knowing that on the front end, we can try to help maintain and mitigate this design from a review standpoint of what happens and what gets discharged directly at a discharge location.
So you would have a specific amount of feet away from the new development that you would be considering in the radius of this all?
Well, I don't know that we consider a specific amount of feet. I mean, we would look at downstream. What does that mean? How far downstream? Normally, when you design, say, a new subdivision, new commercial property, you're looking right at your property lines. And that's where you stop. As long as you design the drainage to meet any off-site requirements right at the property line, we want to look a little bit further. And it may be 200 feet, maybe 300 feet, maybe 5. We don't know what that is, but we just want to ensure that if there is something identified downstream, that during that planning process, we have those discussions then and not after major rainfall.
So this is before preliminary plat, whatever we
Yes.
pass.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my last question, sorry, Missy.
No, that's okay. So you work with Justin on that right now, right?
Yes, sir. It is, and there's some items that we do have to work through Justin with, is how far off-site can we go? And now, this also offers you an opportunity for cost shares, whenever this comes in, to see, just as you would do for a water or sewer upgrade, you could look at that and take that opportunity to work with that developer, maybe make things better.
I think these are great recommendations, I think that's gonna help quite a bit. If we had this in place, probably we wouldn't have some of the issue we have, so thank you for the recommendation. My only concern is how we're gonna implement it. That's been usually the issue. The implementation is the part that I want Mr. Mayor to work on that really hard.
We are committed to implementing.
Thank you. Thank you, that's great.
So, with the, I'm sorry, I'm saying, are you done?
Yeah, thanks.
So with this new position, I would really like this passed and considered to be put in the budget. I really feel that we need this for next year. I don't wanna wait on it. I feel that, and it spoke for itself, Hillcrest subdivision. And you said this, it's in your impression that we wanna have all those concerns happen, and we're just having too much coming in and too much being passed. I really feel strongly that this inspection compliance needs to be put into place right away. And along with creating a new position, I think we might as well just go ahead and do an SOP that goes along with it.
We have to
Job
have a
description.
job description
And
and all
a
that,
job
and that's what
description.
he's working on. It won't be ready for the next week's meeting. It will be ready probably in January, February at the latest. That is, my goal is to have it passed
But-
by February.
But we can pass this as a
Right.
whole at the next meeting and then work on the job description and implementation.
And the rate and all of that, so.
Perfect. Sounds like you got the right.
That is what the goal is. There is, some things coming as well. We will be amending the budget early next year because of all these rate studies and the things that are going on. And that's gonna be in the very first amendment, but that's going to be a position that is approved and we start hiring for it in January or February.
An experienced person.
Yes, we're looking for some experience, we're looking for someone that, is able to, that has kind of a broad range of experience, not just in one or two areas.
Okay, so this will be coming before a separate meeting.
It
The
will-
resolution or an ordinance.
The position and all will be coming in January is the goal.
But the recommendations, can we pass that in addition to this?
Those recommendations, I have no problems passing.
Okay.
We can
Just
put
say
that
we're
into
getting
a-
one.
We can put that into a resolution.
All of this is great, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments?
No problem, thanks.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Next item is the planning report.
Good evening.
Evening.
Planning Commission met, last week, December 1st. We had a few items on the agenda. One was the preliminary plat for the Trillium subdivision that we've been working on for, probably a little bit over a year now, between initial work with the PZD application and everything. Everybody should be pretty familiar with that, but it was conditionally approved by the Planning Commission. Their, preliminary plat, obviously zoning and everything was already done, but, there's some other things they're looking at, there's still a lot of moving parts out in the area, but the initial preliminary plat has been conditionally approved. We had a conditional use for the business at Lakeview Baptist Church. It was a pediatric plus, we felt like this was something, it's a temporary business, they're, by the virtue of being temporary, it had to be conditionally approved, and the church campus and everything, we felt like it was something that would fit the use and, not be a problem there. And so it was, approved unanimously by the commission for the year 2026. They believe they'll be out there for 2026, so. The Summerlin Village Lifestyle Development, this was the PZD on the corner of Lowell and Ford Lane, that the PZD was approved. They have their large-scale development, like site plan, and this was tabled at this time. They have some items to get back to on the engineering side and the review side, so we'll plan to see them back, if not this month, probably first of next year. And then we approved the calendar for the 2026 year for the planning commission. So for December, there's nothing that the city council has complaining, nothing that is being brought before y'all for me. And then under general updates, we've been continuing to work on the zoning code update, meeting with Garver again Thursday, I believe, and been working with the watershed on the project that we have with them for next year's CNU conference, and starting to look at some of the things that we might want to get out of the kind of grant project we're working with on that. So if you all don't have any questions on this, then I will move on to Christmas and Camping. And I will let my assistant speak to that, because we had a great turnout, and I hope everyone managed to see that, but if not, thank you.
Hello everyone. Christmas and Cake was this past Saturday. It went phenomenal. We had lots of public good comments and feedback, and it was very impactful for all of the local businesses. We compared some stats from previous years, and Nelson's alone had a 40% increase just from this weekend. Joy House had over 30%, and I think we had about 4,000 to 5,000 people attend. So I can't wait to do it again next year. Do you have any comments, questions, concerns?
Did a great job.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And thank you to all of our volunteers and committee members. We could have done it without everyone.
I was worried when we approved the committee slate that this would not be a success if it could even be pulled off. And I was very impressed, so thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Good job. Thanks for those stats, by the way, it's nice to hear.
Absolutely.
Next item is the resolution confirming reappointments to the Planning Commission. This year it is Jason Strecker and Fallon Henry are the two that time out this year, and I am asking planning to reappoint both and to another 3-year term. So, any questions there?
I think they're great members.
Do what?
I said, I think they're great members
Okay.
of the planning.
Thank you. The next ordinance, or the next item will be the ordinance to vacate portions of the right-of-way located off Midway. Do we have anyone to speak to that?
Mr. Haney has got bronchitis.
Okay,
He will not be here, and his attorney is not here either.
okay,
But I have anything that I'd like to say.
okay. And there are drawings in the back of the planning report that relate to that as well.
David, could you come up since you wrote this information here? How long have these roads been there, these streets, so-called streets?
I cannot give you a definitive timeline. You can go to like page 3, that is the original town plat, and you can see where they were part of the original town plat. So indefinitely, you know, as old as Cave Springs is, you know, about the best answer I can give you.
Well, if you go up here to Lakeview, or to, First Baptist and go up, there's a road that cuts back just behind their property.
Yes, sir.
It's plain to see that.
Yes, sir.
But you can't go up here, find one of them roads and just walk them. Mr. Haney's taken care of that property for over 30 years. Mowed it, took care of it, cleaned it, everything. Nobody from our city has, nobody even knew it was there that I'm aware of. I didn't know it.
Yes, sir.
So, and his building, he got permission from the city to build that shop building where it is.
Okay. I don't know, you know, whether you did or not as far as that goes.
It's just, I mean, he's got property on both sides of him. I don't see a problem with this myself.
Yeah.
You might be able to get an easement for utilities across there.
Well, that's the recommendation I made, you know. So if this was someone splitting land, we would not allow anybody to split land up the way they're proposing to close the easements, because you would have a bunch of properties without access, legal access to a road, essentially. So it would either need to all be combined into one property, or there would need to at least be like some sort of access easement. Because, you know, right now, I agree with you, you know, there's multiple parcels back there. If you look at the original town plat, you know, those were all separate lots. You know, they were like lot 1 through 8 of block 2, you know, adjacent to Midway Avenue.
Little bitty lots.
Oh, yes, yes, they were. Yeah, they were the same as like what's across the street, you know, like a lot of what is across the street is 1 and or 4 of 2 of these smaller lots is how all these old towns were planted back in the day. But as far as the future needs, and I haven't got to speak with the Haneys, but I have spoken with their attorney, and he is aware of the things that are in this. You know, I talked to him about, you know, I don't know what their future plans are, but they're making this property undevelopable, because now there's not gonna be, you know, access to Midway. Like, and we have 2 lots now that, well, what if someone wants to sell these lots off separately? Well, they don't have access now. How do they get to them? Well, they can't, because they can't get to them through the Haney's property and drive back that way. And technically, he won't have access to them to drive from Midway back there. So, you know, that's the concern as far as for the
What
city.
he's wanting to do, in speaking with him, is combine all his properties as one and sell.
Yeah.
They're old, and the ULI came here and said if that came up for sale, that'd be a perfect place for a new city hall and police station on that property there.
I think we talked about it here, I don't know.
No, I'm talking right back there on their map.
Yeah, I mean, that's not what's in the book.
Because I don't trust the ULI, but you all seem to, and whatever, but that's what they said on the Haney property. So, why don't the city buy it? Solve the whole problem.
So,
But if we did this and the city bought it, it's useless to us because we can't access it from Midway. Because then there's no easement and there's no access to it. That's my point, and like, that's what I, you know, discussed with, like, our water department and stuff like that, is like, if we're giving this land away and then we have to come back through and get it later, well, now we're gonna go and purchase land back from, that we gave away. It's like, at least with like the other ones, someone's offering to buy the land and pay us money for it. But like, also, if we're giving it away, and then we need to go and get access, or someone has to get access to it in the future, or we need to run a water or sewer line through it, they're not gonna give it back to us, they're gonna make us pay for it.
But wouldn't there be access off of 264? Couldn't there be access off of 264?
No, 264.
Or I thought you were talking about behind the Baptist church.
no, trying to city hall, so.
Who said Baptist church?
Right back.
Mike was talking about it, he was referencing
Oh,
a different
I'm so
road
confused for a
that
second.
is back behind the Baptist church that we,
You bought it from them could do whatever they wanted to do.
There has been.
They
other things-
could, but they wouldn't have access other than to tear down that old house in this alley back here. And, you know, there's no, like, real access to the back of that property. It's not like they would have the access off Midway, is what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is that there would be no need. His property goes all the way to back there. If you look at it, he's got property on both sides of these
Yes.
roads.
I think
So if you gave that up, he would own all of that there. There would be no need for another road to go in there.
The point is that if they developed it and put 6 houses back there, they couldn't, there wouldn't be a way to get a road into it.
Yes.
If they do that. May I speak to that?
Yeah.
So they are my clients, so I put that on the table so everybody knows, so I'm not gonna say, definitely when it comes to voting, I'm not gonna vote on it, but I do wanna say that they've been maintaining this for quite a while now, maybe 30 years. They got permit from city to put that in there, and their whole idea is not to put up, they're gonna sell it, basically at some point. And if they don't have access to Midway, and they're not gonna get as much for it, then that would be their decision, I guess, to, the way it is right now, it's not good for them at all, because they're maintaining something and they have their shop on it, and the city has the, you know, I can see asking for the easement.
And that was the,
That's
kind
asking
of
for.
the point that we talked about with, you know, the staff and all this discussing is like, you know, we could at least retain easement rights.
For utility.
Yeah,
And honestly, I think we only get it for the one piece that's 50 foot. The smaller 25-foot section between the church and the house and the two parcels back there, like, we could probably close that all the way. But realistically, the 50-foot section that was actually originally Maple Street, like, I think, I mean, what we talked about internally with staff and all of this, like, it would really behoove us, and it's the best thing for the city and the property owners long term.
So is it possible to maintain that easement, or do they want us to vacate it? Totally.
My understanding is they were asking to vacate the right of way, so it's an established right of way, so it's a separate parcel, right? It's got the same parcel ID, like if you click on it, it comes up with all the other roads and things in the city. Like it's not just an easement. We would vacate the right of way, which it would actually technically become part of their property. But we would retain the idea with this kind of poses that we would at least maintain an access and utility easement over that 50-foot strip in case there ever is the need for the city to, you know, put utilities in there, or one of these two parcels back there to have access, because then they wouldn't have access. And we don't split land that doesn't have access. Like, we don't create parcels without legal access to them.
Okay, so you're.
Like, that's something that nobody should be doing anywhere, creating parcels without legal access. Because all that does is then create issues that come to the city later because neighbors are fighting because, hey, I can't get to my land. And it's a very, very,
So if someone bought and they wanted to split, it couldn't be split because we wouldn't have an easement there, is that what you're saying? So if someone bought that whole property and wanted to split it, instead of buying one purchase altogether, there would
Yes.
be no utilities.
yes, that is a future,
Access.
that is a potential future issue that would come from closing all the easements, or closing all the right of ways, trying to use the right terminology, closing all the right of ways and not retaining any sort of like access easement or something in those areas.
I think it's probably in the best interest to just make, what does the planning commission say on it? Or it doesn't go to
It didn't go.
it just comes to us, okay. I think it would be in the best interest of the city to maintain that easement for that section. And however it's developed or sold is up to whatever and whoever. But I don't know what's your thoughts on that, MC, as a council member, not as a Or
Yeah, yeah, I
like,
mean,
maybe I
I'm
should be,
having-
maybe I should be asking you since you do your clients.
Having easement is reasonable things to have to, for utility.
I think maintaining that 50-foot easement would probably be in the best, I think it would be in the best interest of the city. And I understand there are other arguments still.
Like,
You, can I just ask a question, I'm sorry. You're
Because you
saying-
said just
you're
that
saying-
50 feet, you said 50-foot easement, you think it would be beneficial for this to retain that.
Yeah, retain, yes, sorry. You're using the word maintain, so I just want to clarify. Yes, retain
Sorry.
a 50-foot easement over the existing right-of-way space that is 50 feet. Yes, that was the recommendation when we looked at it from the staff.
And you're saying the landowner is not in favor of that, or has it been?
I've only talked to the attorney, I've not got to talk to the landowner. The attorney was talking about getting us all together and having that discussion, but I've not
It
got.
hasn't happened yet. I
That
think
is
it'd be
not-
very beneficial to have that discussion. And, just simply because as a city, I don't think we should let an easement fully go, but we have a space of it, so future development and things like that. So it doesn't come back on the city, and if someone buys it and wants to split it, there's no future confrontation with the city that we did something that shouldn't have been done. And is that common, Daniel, to like in this situation, to retain something like that in regards to the property? So if that is common practice, I think the city should do.
And it's not uncommon here either. We've closed several, of the old alleys and streets where we retained, utility easement or some form of easement.
Perfect.
retaining utility easement is, and if you have any question, you want me to help you, you can let me know. I'd be more than happy to meet you and discuss it.
Yes, I'm more than happy to discuss any of it. That was just, I fully understand and appreciate him taking care of it. You know, I do. I brush hog a city road, like here in town, like I need to brush hog a road up on the hill, to be honest with you, Mike, I ain't done it yet. But it also was not uncommon practice, or I wouldn't say uncommon practice. Most cities' ordinances, when they were established it as the property owner's right to maintain the center line of the right of way. So even though there may not have ever been a road put in, it was still always the property owners on each adjacent side to maintain the center line of any right of way. Like back when there were dirt streets and all that, so that was from a code enforcement, maintenance standpoint. But,
So can you touch base with the attorney about that?
yes,
Before the
I
meeting,
mean,
since we'll be voting on it? Or?
I had expected him to, be here tonight, or however we want to do it, I have no qualms, I have no issues.
Mr. Handy has bronchitis right now.
No, talking about JJ.
Oh, Jay, I
Yeah.
expected him to be here myself. I would suggest that, you give MC a chance to talk to Mr. Haney. I think his son's involved in this too.
Okay.
Who's in Little Rock.
Okay.
And, try to get done before next week,
Yeah,
a meeting of some kind.
that sounds fine, Joe.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Next item is a land purchase offer that's been made. Do we have anyone here to speak to that? Do you want to address that as well?
Give it a second.
It's your night, David.
Stay up there.
So, similar concept. This one, again, I understand it. There are some more immediate pressing concerns with this. And in speaking about this with like a public works director and things like that, where they're proposing, I believe, to purchase, like, we have manholes in that piece of land, and we have sewer lines and water lines running through there, and things like that. So, from just a utility standpoint, there's some major concerns you know, from just that standpoint. From, trying to think about, or figure out the best way to word this. From the planning standpoint, if you flip to page 4, you can kind of see a picture of the proposed RDOT connection where they're putting a new roundabout in on 264 east of this property, correct? You know, you can see where they're kind of taking the property in question, you know, where they're on.
264?
Yes, 264 west,
Oh, okay.
that way, yes, sir.
Sorry.
Yeah. And you can see where they're proposing to bring the curbs and radiuses and stuff like that, in, right? You know, part of us working with RDOT on the realignment and the Main Street location, you know, we were proposing to bring the trail into that area. And part of the future idea was that trail would go to the T.R. Wallace Park, and we could potentially do some of the items that was addressed in that downtown master plan there. The one thing I forgot to get to you all, and my assistant has already skedaddled, is we have already once submitted for a grant, for a placemaking grant for that park, to get some money to potentially put in like a future sign, like welcome to Cave Springs, when people come in there, to do like some bike racks, some better seating, to kind of update the T.R. Wallace Park. Part of that included taking out that connection to Main Street where Chestnut, you know, curves back in. Because really, there's a lot of connections to Chestnut. We don't have to have that curve back in right there. It's kind of a dangerous spot to put all those entrances. So, you know, we were kind of, the long-term plan that we were looking at was to eliminate that Chestnut connection to on the north side of the park, let that all become park space with maybe some parking for people on the back side of it. So that was kind of like, that was like the pretty side of it, right? It was like, you know, like hopes and dreams for making a better park. But, you know, there's also other issues like sewer and water in that area. And I would hate for us to sell this and then that connection point to Chestnut not be able to be closed off in the future either. It would have to be someone's driveway for the business. That wouldn't be the best location for a personal business entrance either. So that's just, kind of some of the concerns we had. I mean, I understand that they're wanting to move the property building back because of setbacks. Currently, that property itself is zoned C1, which is downtown commercial. It doesn't have building setbacks. They can be on property line. They can be on property line, except that building is an old house and it was not built for building to be on property line. So they could be within 10 feet of the back of that, but within the back, their back property line is with the primary structure. They don't even have to adhere to like the 25 of the typical rear building setback.
Because it's C1,
Because it's C1, yes. So,
we need to update that.
I would rather work with the property owner and try and do a variance or see if there's another way we could accommodate moving the building. And at least that was, you know, my thoughts along with, you know, other staff members who talked about it, as opposed to selling, you know, this portion of land that realistically also, I mean, I know they're saying that they just want it for building setbacks, well, they don't really have building setbacks. The only building setbacks that they have are not really building setbacks, it has to do with building code, and it has to do with, like, if they had a firewall, like a block wall, they could be on property line. So, I think there's a better way to solve this problem than selling a portion of land that we have utilities in.
David? My question is why C1 doesn't have any setback?
C1 is the downtown,
Why?
and it's the old original plats, and, you know, that's how all those were designed, and that's what we've always had for C1, as far as the building typologies, you know, to promote this kind of zero lot line, you know, firewall look.
Should we update it going forward?
Oh, we're gonna update, and I don't wanna get like deep into zoning code, but there are specific, requirements to C1, and there's probably things that we're going to add in the zoning code update that we've already discussed, like, if you're gonna be C1, you have build 2 lines, they have to build to the edge property lines, they can't go 3 feet off or something, they have to build to them, and they have to adhere, to the actual building code standards. So, but that's a zoning and building update thing we're working on.
Yeah, I recommend that, definitely.
I mean, as far as C1 goes, the location of the lot and the land, I can understand it being C1, like it fits because of the location. But the building is not a C1 building, and it does not adhere to the code. We would probably call it a non-conforming use in a C1 zone. Yeah.
My opinion is, I don't think we should give any downtown, I don't think we should sell anything downtown that is ours. We already have very limited downtown space, and doing what is in the best interest of the city. I don't think we should let anything go, such as something that is in the core of our downtown that we own land around. I would entertain the idea of you working with the homeowner to do some kind, or not, the owner of the property, to do something that that they're looking for, like the variance, that would work together with the planning. But my personal opinion is, I don't think we should outright sell anything that we own as a city, because, like I said, we don't have much city
And
land.
I agree. And just for additional clarification, prior to this, I did not ever get to speak with the property owner about him wanting to purchase this. But I have spoken with him in the past about, we told him about what we were working on the park, and showed him what we submitted, and, he was on board with that, he loved it. He's been asking me questions about the adjacent properties next to him, he's been trying to buy some of that off of the RDOT, the Wrights property that is to the west of him, the property directly, kind of southwest of that. So, I've been discussing with him options, trying to work, with him, because I know he was wanting to keep the building. And he made a fair offer as far as I'm aware. I think it's a fair offer to, purchase the land. But again, there's some other issues there.
To be honest, the money amount doesn't play any impact on my decision when I'm looking at, for me personally as a council member, to sell off portions of our land. I think it opens kind of a can of worms for other things and kind of sets a precedent, but I also feel strongly that we should not just sell land or give it up in terms of things that we outright own.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
The next item is discussion of reconsideration of the rezone decision for the Fort Lane property. And, we have the applicant here to speak this evening. Would someone like to?
Good evening, Will Kellstrom here on behalf of the developer on this rezoning request. I've been hired to assist with this rezoning. So first off, we're here on asking you guys to make a motion to reconsider this. I went back and watched the city council video meeting from when this was here last on October 28th. And in that meeting, I saw that we didn't present much. We didn't really give you guys that much information. And for that, we apologize, and that's why we're here tonight. We're going to try to make that better. We're going to do a better job this time of getting all the information that you're looking for. So what we have done is we have Taylor with Crafton and Toll, who's brought a drainage exhibit that he can show you guys, and we'll be happy to answer any engineering or drainage questions. We have Aaron Thornborough here, who's the project manager. I understand some questions have been posed to him as well, and he's happy to get up and discuss answers to those. And ultimately, what we're here for is again, we're asking you all to make a motion to reconsider this item. We are not asking you to approve it tonight and let us move forward with development. All we're asking for is a second chance. So with that, I'll let my colleagues take the floor here. Thank you.
Good evening, Taylor Linden with Craft Toll Associates. Mine's going to spread out, and I'll pass some things on to you all. So I've passed around, there's 3 sheets there. 2 of them are drainage maps showing pre and post drainage conditions on the site. Utilizing the county contours that are available for us for the surrounding areas. This is a preliminary drainage map as discussed at the last meeting. We haven't gotten into the full depth civil design yet, trying to get all of our entitlements in place from the rezone perspective before the developer spends the dollars to go further with engineering design of the site. But we're still able to do some preliminary work and some drainage analysis and prepare these exhibits for you all. First page on there is the existing drainage map showing the boundary of the existing drainage lines. So that green line that you see on there, that's everything that we drain through the site and everything that would ultimately on the next page drain through our pond. We're not 100% on everything coming from Brentwood yet. I need to do some more exploration out there. But either way, we're not changing the flow rate coming from Brentwood, and we're not restricting it. We will allow it to pass through the site, either through our detention pond or in a bypass channel or pipe or some other method. So I'll clean that up a little bit more before the next council meeting. But as you can see right now, we're only expecting the backyards of those corner lots, and the rest of the subdivision would drain through the existing detention facilities in Brentwood. The blue boundary on that first page is everything that kind of bypasses to the south. There's an existing kind of large drainage channel to the south further down Ford Lane. So all of that is roughly 4.3 acres on the existing drainage boundary. And the next page will show that we're not increasing any of that. We're actually decreasing it down to roughly 3.7 acres. So the only thing that will be leaving our site to the south would be the backyards from those homes on the south boundary, and then a little bit of the yards on the east side of the site, the front Ford Lane. So on that second page, you see the majority of the site, everything to the northeast will remain as is, the little bit coming on site from Brentwood, and the neighboring property to the east, and then obviously the area to the north. Like I mentioned, none of that would be restricted before coming through our site. We would capture that either in our detention pond or a bypass pipe, and then discharge it on the west boundary line. From there, as we discussed, the post-developed flow rates will not increase. That's the main intention of our drainage manuals across the region, is to make sure we're maintaining pre-developed flow rates on neighboring property owners, not increasing the flow rate of water, and therefore creating a detrimental situation to the downstream neighbors. We do have the third page kind of indicates what those structures would look like. We just have kind of a basic box style control, outlet control structure for a detention pond. We can shape the weir structure in the front of that box, or put orifice holes. Depends on how the design works out. But we size those holes and those flow restrictors to meet pre-developed flow rates, like I mentioned. So for each storm event, we'll do an analysis and show what the pre-developed flow rate is leaving the site, and then show what the post-developed flow rate is utilizing that box outlet structure. So it'll look a little bit different than this, but the general concept is clear. The second 2 items are things that would go above and beyond what the drainage manual would typically require. This is a level spreader. It's not required, to my knowledge, in the current drainage manual, but it's a device that we can put on the end of the flared end section where a pipe would discharge stormwater onto an adjacent property, and it allows the flow of the water to spread out back to a more of a sheet flow condition before leaving the property. That's something we wanted to present as an option for you all to consider and for us to present going forward with preliminary plat. It's really good for the lower flow storm events, the higher flow storm events, as you know, I mean, the flow rate may be coming out of the pipe in a way where it would inundate that, but the flow rate for those higher flow storm events would still be maintained below grid lower flow. What this does the most is the low flow storm events are the ones we get the most frequently, and therefore the ones that contribute the most to erosion. And so if we can remove that point discharge from the low flow storm events and spread it out before it leaves our site, it would really help with any potential erosion downstream. The other drainage items I wanted to mention, if you go back to the exhibits, as you all know, the existing use for the site is a turkey farm with a turkey barns there. Beyond just removing that use to produce a subdivision there, that would, back up, speaking towards water quality. Water quality being the same is obviously factoring in the existing use of the turkey farm. So if we remove that use, that in and of itself will assist in water quality leaving the site. But beyond that, our retention facilities are designed to allow total suspended solids, any sediment, contaminants to settle out in those facilities and producing a cleaner water leaving the site on the neighboring properties. Downstream facilities, I think that was in McClellan's presentation at the beginning. If we were to study further downstream, we would indicate that the same concepts, trying to reduce flow rates and improve water quality, however far downstream, it is recommended by the city attorney and McClellan. And ultimately, those downstream property owners, when they choose to develop in the future, would have the same requirements and should be better served for having the facilities in place on our site. All that said, I have a few other things I can bring up as questions arise, but do we have the adjacent property?
No.
Okay, we are in contact with the property owner to the west. It is our understanding that he has no opposition to the development as a whole. Hopefully, maybe next week, if he's able to come out and speak, that would be great. If not, like I said, we'll just communicate what we've been told today. If you have any further questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have one on the second page,
Yes, sir.
where you show the lots. There's an area that has 4 lots that are missing.
Yes, sir.
Is that the retention?
That's where tentatively we would place it. Yes, sir.
So that would then drain southwest from there?
More directly west, the existing point of discharge is a pretty defined low point on the west boundary line. It's about the 3rd lot north from the southwest corner of the site.
Okay. My understanding, there's a kind of a draw anyway that goes from northeast to southwest.
That's about right, yes, sir.
That was my main concern when I voted, was
Yes, sir.
drainage. So we have a lot of drainage problems.
Yes, sir. And I'm happy, like, if there's anything further you'd like to see for next week's meetings.
I spoke with somebody on the phone.
Yes, sir, I think we were.
Very informative, I appreciate it.
Very good. Yeah, we were discussing that, and I believe you specifically were speaking for the details for how the pond outlet structure worked. If there's anything more I can provide, assuming we can have a motion to be reconsidered for next week, I'd be happy to bring that back next week for the vote.
Mayor, we can't do a motion tonight, they can
Yes,
just
we
for the time.
can.
Oh,
I've
okay.
got the directions
Okay,
from the city
perfect.
attorney. We can't approve anything tonight, but
But we
we
can
can
do it.
approve putting it on next month, or next week's agenda.
Okay, Mike, were you done?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, my vote might have been different if you approached it like this, like your lawyer said, your attorney said that when you answered last time, if this would have addressed most of my water concerns, I still have questions for you. I am still concerned about density, so I'd love to hear about that. But, so you're looking at one drainage basin, is that correct?
Detention basin, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you're saying you could do this second picture here? or the second, level spreader?
The level spreader is, we would have to work that out on the engineering detail side, and make sure we're accommodating the appropriate space and the appropriate length of that level spreader. But that's a pretty simple implementation on the end of the flirting section.
I would like that in there. Anything you can do more with drainage before you come back as promising this can be done would be wonderful. Second, another question here. So I understand you're gonna get some drainage from that corner of Brentwood. I'm curious what this triangle piece extension is that runs, more parallel to Shook here. You believe you get runoff from Brentwood all the way up there?
There's potential, and this, like I said, we're working off GIS county contours that's available to us. Just tracing delineating those contours back to the east. There's a little bit that can run off of those couple backyards through the existing home and kind of shed operation in the back there, through all of that onto Ford Lane. However, everything east of that, and basically everything Hillcrest related, that all drains either east or south of us. So
Oh, it drains horribly east.
Sure.
It is awful.
Nothing from Hillcrest drains through this side.
Okay, well, I like that you considered that in your plan. My concern is with, the detention basin, the homes that are across the street, for example, Fairway Valley, or whatever down there, was it Fairway Valley? You know, they have a detention pond. Granted, our standards have drastically changed, but in a high rain event, are these homes on the backside going to be flooded?
No, so the placement of the detention pond currently is in the lowest portion of the site, barring the far west, where we would be discharging ultimately. So there would be homes downstream of it to the west, and then the north and the south would both be higher. And I believe in the drainage manual, there's a minimum freeboard requirement for finished floor elevations above the water surface elevation, which we presented in the preliminary plat.
Are you familiar with Brentwood?
I know what the subdivision is, but not with the design of the drainage.
Okay, well, we have a huge detention pond and a major storm event. We can have that overflow, and I'm guessing our detention pond in Brentwood is bigger. So that's where I worry about those homes on the other side. It literally can overflow up the driveways of other homes. So,
The other thing I would
if you
say,
could look at that and touch base with our engineering about Daniel, you know what I'm talking about. Touch base with our engineering to ensure, I would hate to have people move into these nice beautiful homes at your point, I know you're going to build, if it's approved, but for those homes, I have to look out also for future residents, because I don't want to, we've heard from a lot of residents about drainage issues. I have my own drainage issues, I believe Mike does, MC does, so drainage is huge to us. But that is one thing that, in a big storm event, massive 100-year flood, are those homes gonna flood?
understood. Yeah, and the two things I would speak to that as well, the size of the detention pond is not set in stone by this drawing. We've got to get into much more detailed engineering design to size that pond. And then number two, across the board, and when we do subdivisions at our firm, we're continually thinking about an overflow path. So if a mattress were to wash down and block the outlet structure and everything were to overflow the pond, where is that water going to go? And we want to make sure that that has got a path around buildings or around in drainage design facilities rather than through a home. So that's a very intentional part of our design.
Alright, and then my other, you've answered all of my drainage concerns, but the other one would be density, and how you're gonna address the density, because, Hillcrest isn't built out yet. And this is a big development. We have, 2 and from lane, that's all we have. You have one, do you only have one entrance? Or
We have 3 entrances on the floor.
Oh, there you go, okay, 1, 2, okay. So you have 3 different entrances, so possibly they could go down, what is that, Brown?
Yes, sir.
They could go down
Ford
Brown.
can go south to Brown, obviously goes north to 264.
Okay.
But you're
So
gonna,
most, I believe probably most will go towards the 264 route. And when you're already pulling out on Ford, in Brentwood, in Ridgewood, all of that is there. It is very, very hard as it is with no development, no Hillcrest, not this one, not the other one that we approved on the other side of Rainbow for Dr. Bruce's property. So what road improvements do you see yourself doing to help mitigate that, if any?
The response to the density itself would be, our proposed development is not going to exceed either Brentwood or Hillcrest or any of the surrounding neighborhoods in density. I think we're right around the same as Brentwood, 3.5 units per acre.
So how many homes would that be?
We're at 90 on this layout. The other items related to the traffic that you're speaking to, I think there's a couple ways to look at this. Like, we will have to do our half of street improvements on Ford Lane first and foremost. So we'll widen the street to the collector width that's required by code, and that'll be there. How useful it is immediately is not, I wouldn't say very, like I said, the immediate, but it allows for future development to the north to connect to that, widen Ford Lane further. Obviously more development on the east side and further south if that were to come as well. So the more pieces of the widening that get involved, the more traffic that's going to ultimately be able to handle. But where I would say it's a benefit immediately is at the intersection of 4 and 264. We all know that at some point there should be some sort of signal around something there to help traffic flow on the highway. And obviously that's not a problem. And RDOT traditionally is very consistent. We will not put something there until the traffic requires it. And so this subdivision has to be there in order for it to trigger RDOT to do anything. So that's one thing I would say, like, it might, a little more pain in the beginning, but ultimately help solving a problem on the back end. The other problem I think it helps with is ultimately if things do go west, development-wise, we're providing a substrate to the west and to the north and to the south. So connectivity across the board as development comes in around us. And the best one of those would be further west of Clayton, obviously, but northbound and southbound developments would have the ability to spread out that traffic as well. I think generally speaking, bigger roads in a lot of cases, you build them bigger, you just get more traffic, right? So just as that happens, that's not always the solution. The solution in my mind is connectivity. And so if you have more options for people to go north, south, east, west, disperse the traffic rather than concentrate them all into one large road, that goes a long way. So offering the connectivity opportunity, I think, is the other solution there.
So would you have like a turn lane there for all three of those entrances? When people.
A left turn on 2-4?
No, coming in, like if I was coming past the church.
I believe, yes, the collector width would be wide enough ultimately to have a turn lane.
So that those people turning in can just turn in and everybody else can stay straight and it would never back up to Ford.
Back up north, you're talking about?
Yes.
She's talking about a turn lane into your subdivision.
From the south?
I'm confused now. I confused myself.
Because, yeah, people traveling north, people traveling from 264 would be making a right-hand turn in. So that wouldn't be an issue.
So-
And I don't know how many people will be traveling from the south, but the collector width would accommodate a left turn lane, I guess is my answer to that.
Okay. That's what, okay, so that's
But
making sense.
I think the majority of the traffic will be coming from 264 and just be able to make a right turn into our subdivision.
Sure. Okay.
I do have one more.
Yes, sir.
On your front page, it says there, discharge area 2,
Yes, sir.
4.3 acres.
Yes, sir.
If I'm not mistaken, that may be the Mansion property. Have you talked with?
To the south.
Yes, to the south.
So, yeah, the page 1 there, that's just indicating what's currently flowing from our site onto that property to the south.
Has anybody talked to him?
I'm not sure if there's been direct conversations with the property owner to the south.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Is it, has it been?
Is that Mr. Mangion's property right there? I'm not sure if it is or not.
He doesn't join it.
It's this house with the long driveway.
Oh.
Right there.
That should be further south than our drainage will impact. I think there's a ravine between our property and that house to the south.
Okay.
So there's no drainage over here.
That long driveway, the house is there.
Oh. They're saying that's their house, the bushes.
Oh, okay. I just want to be sure everybody in contact.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more time. So this level spreader detail, you will be adding, could you please add that?
Yes, sir.
So that will be included. Daniel, you'll be able to follow up with that to make sure that,
During the submittal review. Ms. Walker,
okay.
this is not going to come across our desk as a rezone at this time.
Oh, yes, I know, but if it is passed, you would be able to reassure that that's in there from an engineering perspective. Thank you for the detail this time.
Yes, sir. Apologies for last time.
When I have questions, I need them answered, or I can't pass anything, because it's not in the best interest of the city. Thank you so much, though, it has helped a lot. You did good.
Just want to say thank you for clarifying a lot of stuff tonight. I think that's done rightfully. You guys did into a very good presentation. Definitely, this is much better now. Looking at it, I think we're looking at rezoning it from A1 to R3 right now. And I have always been concerned about drainage, and I thought to have a better manual knows. And I feel like if we go forward with these, I'd like to see the drainage evaluation recommendation that we had tonight to be implemented as part of that. If that's the case, then I feel comfortable that we're, at least we're giving them the same chances we're giving everybody else too. And then after it's rezoned, then it's up to obviously planning commission and engineer to make sure they're implementing and what we requested. So I have no problem making a recommendation to reconsider it.
I'm for it too.
Okay, at this point, do y'all have anything further?
I need a point of clarification, I think.
Yes, so, you said you had some, instructions from Justin up there.
Right.
I would just like to be abundantly sure of, do we need a majority of those present, a majority of the whole? What is the requirement to get this
The
motion?
requirement is that for a reconsideration, one of the no votes has to make the motion. Second can be made by anyone, and it requires 4 votes to pass, which is a majority of the whole. And I can be the 4th vote. If there's a tie or there's a 3, I can be the 4th, but it has to have 4 votes to pass. And then that would put it on the next month's agenda, or next week's agenda, to be heard by the council again. And that's when the decision would be made whether or not to actually approve the rezone. This just simply puts it on the agenda.
Okay, and so I apologize in advance for my lack of formality if there is one, but I do see that we are not at full strength tonight.
Right.
And so if there is anyone here that is not open to reconsidering this, then I think we would rather wait than when we have the extra votes.
Well, he did make the statement that it could be considered again at next meeting. And if it were at the next meeting approved as a reconsideration, then it would have to wait till January to even be heard. So,
I guess what I'm asking is if everyone is comfortable, again, not with approving the project, but just getting us back on the agenda for a second chance, then we would love a vote tonight, but I would hate to lose that because we're not at full strength.
okay, I've got a motion by Mike Middlecamp to put it on for reconsideration. Do I have a second? Second by MC. All in favor, please say aye and raise hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passed, and you will be up for reconsideration.
And if there's anything in the next week that I can provide more, please feel free to email me or have the city, one of the city officials email me. I'm happy to bring it with us.
I would, simply because I know this was a no vote, I would go ahead and bring all of this
Sure. Happy
to the council members that weren't here. I know JJ was a yes vote last time, or was he here last time?
Yes.
JJ, okay.
Yeah.
So I would do your due diligence and bring it again, and if it needs to be discussed again briefly to inform
Because-
council members that were not here, I am
Right.
totally in support of that, because you did a wonderful job of presenting and alleviating concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great night.
You too.
And the next item, we do have the budget to go over, but Carl is here if you have questions about the finances. and where he is on things before we get started on the budget, that's fine. And,
No, I believe it.
Took care of it.
Hi, Carl.
Everybody lives in the accountant, Carl.
Numbers are boring.
Yeah.
What can I do for you guys? Would you like me to tell you where I'm at?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, when I first started, I thought that this was going to be relatively easy, and it's not. I've had to go back to January of 2018 and start there. And between January of 2018 and December of 2024, I've had to make $2 million worth of adjustments to your balance sheet, which also flows into your P&L, which reduces your fund balance from, I believe it was 3.7 million, and it's about 1.7 million. So, but it really didn't affect cash. Cash is right for the most part. There were some reconciling items that I had to clean up, but I have done cleanup on balance sheets through 2024, and in 2025, all of the cash is reconciled through yesterday. And the last thing that I need to do is go through the balance sheet payroll liabilities with Stephanie and make sure that what we have reflected on the balance sheet as liability is truly what our liability is. I don't expect the differences to be material, but there may be some small adjustments. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So in January, do you think you have the?
I'm sorry, you gotta speak up.
I'm sorry. So in January, do you think you have the actual financial?
I think I'll be able to give you a P&L by next week,
Okay.
is what I believe.
Okay.
It may not be absolutely perfect, but it'll be materially correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
thank you. Next item is the budget. I sent this out last meeting. I've also sent it out again now. Nothing's changed since it was originally presented. It looks much better this year than last year's. We actually run a surplus in the general fund, a small surplus in the general fund, a small surplus in the streets, and we run we still have to dip into reserves for water and sewer in a much smaller amount than we did previously. And I do believe that when we get our rate studies back and everything that we're working on, that some of that is going to be changing in Maven, and I suspect that that will no longer be working out of reserves as well. But that is early in the next year, and we don't have till that point to pass a budget. So this is a very serious and to the point look at the budget. It was presented to me by each department head. They were very involved in their own piece of the budget. And then we discussed, and they, I don't know of anything materially that, or anything major that they've asked for that wasn't included.
Mayor, I asked you, did you have a chance to look into council pay and planning commission pay in comparison?
I did, and I apologize, I don't have that with me, but I forgot to bring it. The cities that you requested, Centerton and Pea Ridge, they pay per meeting, and one of them amounts to about $400 a month, and if I remember properly, the other one was about $350
For both?
for if they make both meetings.
Okay, and then also I would propose with planning, I see the amount of work they do, I've attended their meetings.
Okay.
I know that we are, council is paid whether we're here or not. I know the council does a lot of stuff off record. I know that people meet with developers, I go out to people's properties if they have issues. So I believe council does their due diligence, but also I believe planning does as well.
I do too.
I would like, and planning is paid per meeting, I would like that to go away and then to be paid for just being on the planning commission.
Right.
And then if anything comes up where people are consecutively missing meetings, you know, then, you know, that's under your,
Okay.
under your umbrella,
Yeah.
since you appoint them. But I would really like that done away with. They're
I-
paid little for what they do, we're paid little for what we do, but,
I very much agree.
so I would like, does that have to come across as an ordinance at the next meeting?
I'll find out from Justin whether that can be wording in the
I don't
budget or
know.
whether it has to be an ordinance, in whichever case it is, we'll have it addressed.
I don't know how other council members feel about that, but that's something I would like addressed.
What do y'all think? I mean, honestly, having done both and having seen what the people do on planning, they're like y'all are, they are not, their job doesn't end at the end of the meeting. A lot of them will go out and look at sites, they would come back and they've talked to people about processes and they've asked questions before they ever get back to the meeting.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Then I'll have that, I'll talk to Justin about that and see how we get that done appropriately.
So you'll look into that with Justin and then making this and the drainage evaluation recommendations as a resolution or an ordinance as well for the next
Right.
meeting? Okay. I really want this, what McClellan did here for the recommendations at the next meeting to vote on.
Any other questions?
Could you bring that stuff though for the other council members to see comparisons, Centerton, P Ridge, or anything else?
Yeah, I'll get that out to y'all. I'm gonna send that out tomorrow digitally and then I'll provide it in writing at the meeting.
So that at least it can be addressed with
Yeah.
everybody here hopefully. Thank you.
Are we done?
That's up to y'all.
Well, I was gonna make a statement.
Sure.
I just wanna let everybody know that this month will be my last month on council. And I will be, it's been an honor really serving Cave Springs and everybody here. It's been really an honor working with everybody. I enjoyed it, due to some health and other issues, I decided this would be my last month serving the city. Thank you, I appreciate everyone.
Well, thank you. It's
Yes,
been
you've
an
done
honor
fantastic.
working with you.
You've done a fantastic job. Thank you so much for your service.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All right, motion and a second. Thank you much.
So how are you? Thank you.